We're not used to seeing so many women cast in one particular film. So, when suddenly you see, not even one male face like on the poster or whatever, suddenly it becomes like women-centric.
I used to ask this question to any journalist who would ask me the question. How did you feel playing a role in a female-centric film? It always puts me off.
The film that I'm going to do that's coming up in Hindi has a transgender person being cast as a transgender person.
So I think the diversity inclusion rider is extremely imperative in the film industry because we are a very unorganized group. Already the demand supplies never match each other.
It's not just enough to bring people on a set. It is very important to ensure that they will get the treatment they deserve. And that is actually, we are so far behind. I mean, we haven't even come to posh implementation in the way that we should be doing.
Nadiya ji, Anjali, Nithya, Padmapriya, Parvathy, welcome to Pinkvilla.
Thank you.
It's always amazing to be in company of inspiring women. So thank you for the opportunity that you all have given to us.
Oh,
Thank you. Our pleasure. Thank you.
so sweet.
So I really want to start with, I don't know if it's a difficult question, but Wonder Woman is headlined by an all-woman cast. So this term, a woman-centric film, you all must have heard since a very long time. I want to know from each one of you, how appropriate is this term, especially when we don't use it for a male-centric film?
I used to ask this question to any journalist who would ask me the question. How did you feel playing a role in a female-centric film? It always puts me off, but what I've come to realize, recently is that this vocabulary, this choice of words is different in different contexts in terms of what space you hold in the industry. It's just my understanding, I'm still coming to learn it. As an actor, I can have a resistance to it, and that seems fair to me because I'm still an actor. But in the perspective of a technician, the perspective of makers and production and producers, I don't know if that adds on a layer of understanding and sort of turning the tide a certain way in a larger picture.
Sure.
But just speaking as an actor, it really puts me off because I do want to focus. When a story comes to me, I want to feel that, and while reading it also, I want to feel that it's a story and it happens to be of a woman, but the story is what's more important. The story is a human story, it's a human experience. So that's my take on it.
I would like to extend one more question to you there, because you mentioned, I do agree that women-centric film can also be looked as a business word for the lack of great vocabulary. But I would also like to ask you at this point in time that when we are okay with this word, the audience becomes okay with this word, and then there's a perspective to it. Does that upset you?
I would love to hear from all of them too, but just to say that I was recently, someone like from within our collective we were just having a bit of a debate about this and very open discussion. It was like sometimes it's important to break a structure and introduce something new to like a stopgap to keep the door open before we introduce more stuff. So not be so stringent on this is how it should happen, everybody should just open up far and wide exactly the way I wish to, and be a little more softer in terms of the strategies of how to change the vocabulary around and understanding and visual habits of the audience too, how they understand. So if female oriented is what gets them to come to watch the film, why not? I mean, for me, it's personal, right? I mean, it's related to how I take care of it.
Sure.
I think it is just because we're not used to seeing so many women cast in one particular film. So, when suddenly you see, not even one male face like on the poster or whatever, suddenly it becomes like women-centric. So it's not about that. It's, as Parvathy said, it's a different story. It's a different narrative. So, when you see something in a different light, yes, it requires certain elements, which is not a norm. So I think that is why you come up with that. But I think it's just a matter of time when, you get, there are more such scripts written and there will be a change. And it's always one person taking that step to move forward. And then, in cinema, we're very used to following certain trends. And then I think, someone takes that chance.
Yeah. I'm just happy films like these are being made.
Correct,
so
absolutely.
That's
And
something
being
to
supported.
celebrate for sure.
Yeah.
Ma'am?
Well, I'm glad films are being made, but I would be much more glad if many more of them were getting made.
Yeah.
And see, when an audience member chooses to watch a film, I don't think any of these tags actually help. If the film engages them, they watch it.
Yeah.
You know, that is, I think, at the end of the day, that connection needs to be made. And I would prioritize that connection over any tag that it gets.
Yeah.
Just like, you know, I don't like being described as a woman filmmaker. I'd rather you just call me a filmmaker.
Yeah.
So similarly, these kind of tags have, you know, relevance because of the certain era that we are in, where the norm is indicated as something else. But high time we lose it.
Like you said, more films like these should be made. Does a film like this is difficult to take it off the floors, to start, to take it to a producer and find the finance?
In this situation, I must say no, but that's also because we are talking to people who are empowered. You know, I'm very proud of my producers. I'm very proud of everybody who's associated with this film, because everybody's looked at it as a privilege to be able to do this.
Yeah.
You know, nobody's ever made a sound about, oh, but you think that, but you think this. No, that has not happened. And that's extremely empowering for me as a filmmaker. So I think because we've got a team like that, it's been really awesome.
And I'm genuinely asking from an intention of which these things should go out as much as it can in the audience, so that at least people start talking about it and make it normal. At least that could bring about some change.
Absolutely. I think we're on the track to that happening. Films like this, I think a lot of things are opening up because so many more platforms are coming for diversity to come in. So we're on the way to that happening.
And I just want to add one final thing as far as the audience is concerned, because we are all here part of the industry and we kind of engage in these conversations because we are used to a certain norm of working that we set for ourselves. Whoever in my friend circle across the world now has seen Wonder Woman's trailer has ever come back and said to me that it's a woman-centered film. None of my friends.
Right.
Yeah.
None of
That's
my
true,
friends.
actually.
And I find that fascinating because they are so intrigued, including my own partner. He's like, I want to see this movie so much. I want to see these characters that you've been speaking about.
Yeah.
And I think that's so. I've always believed that if, like just Anjali said, you put a great story and you give it all your heart and your truth to it. The audience wants to only watch that because they only want to be entertained and they only want to be educated and felt and be part of that moment.
Yeah. No, I agree. And like ma'am also said, in the 80s, the character used to be different. Even in the 30s and the 40s, when Devika Rani used to act and produce, she was one of the most powerful female filmmakers and actresses of that time. So we have seen that ups and downs in cinema, I think.
Actually, it would be great academic research to see when did the word female-centered movies come in?
Yeah.
Google
sure. Ma'am, I want to ask you, before I saw the trailer, I was really not aware about something called as prenatal class. Is it true, and what was the inspiration behind it?
Well, there is a whole movement of conscious parenting, which is going across the world, and in India too. That's it's becoming prominent slowly. There are a lot of cities like Goa, in Kerala, Kochi, Hyderabad, Bangalore, Pune, Delhi also, where there are a lot of these places which are mushrooming with birthing practitioners. There are a lot of women who've actually been through the experience and discovered that they're so disempowered that they've decided to learn about it so that they can teach others.
Yeah.
So many people have been through even negative experiences and taken it up. And they are now spreading the information so that more mothers or mothers-to-be and parents-to-be can have access to that and make this whole thing a much more positive experience. So there's some lovely information out there. If anybody was to browse about it, they can find it. And it's actually a cultural shift and a very significant one that's happening.
Very interesting also. Like I said, I had not seen this before, so it was immediately intriguing and interesting to know about it. But I also want to ask you, OTT has two sides. The great thing about OTT is it is giving platform to everyone, larger audience, all of that. The other problem is, I would have liked to see Wonder Woman release in theatres. Would you have also? A few years ago, when OTT was not so strong, Margarita with a Straw did release in theatre and it did extremely well, amazing film. You think Wonder Woman could have done that?
See, with Wonder Woman, there are a couple of things which we're doing a little differently. One is, of course, the choice of subject, which I don't think is a deterrent in any way. But the other thing is that in this film, we've chosen to have a mix of languages which is different.
Yeah.
It's an unconventional choice where though people speak English in most of our cities, we don't usually see it on our screens.
Yeah.
And here we've chosen that as our dominant language. Plus, about 6 different languages from India are spoken by the characters according to their own situations. Now that kind of a thing is, it's not an easy thing to immediately put it out in a theatre and identify an audience. Whereas on an OTT circuit, it's much more, something that the audience can identify with and can tune into. So I was very excited to make a film which is in that space. And in this kind of a thing, we're looking at an intimate telling, we're looking at relationships. So it seemed extremely suitable, and which is why we've gone the OTT way. And I think I'm really looking forward to what a family audience will say about it. I'm keen to see people watch this film with their families, in groups. It's that kind of film.
Lovely. Have you guys heard of the term called inclusion rider?
Yeah.
So I'll read it out for everyone and I also don't get it wrong. It is a provision in an actor's or a filmmaker's contract that provides for a certain level of diversity in casting and production staff. I want to know your thoughts on this, and I've asked this question to a lot of people in the past, and I will keep asking till the time I get a definite answer and something happens about it. So I want to start with any one of you all. Have you all heard about it and you all think it should be done? It is something that we can look for. I'm not saying abhi kabhi contract mein dal do, but discuss to karo. आगे हो तो सकता है, possibility तो है. Is that something you all look forward in the future?
So is that like to be able to hire people of all diversity, as in like,
that's very nice.
like
Of course.
LGBTQ, all of like that's what
I
race
think they
and all
have
that.
started it in the Western world.
But is someone stopping us from doing that now?
No, this the kind of makes sure
But just
that it's
making sure
mandatory
you cover
that these
people.
many percentages of representation needs to be done, right?
But Nithya, does it really happen on a set? No.
Yeah,
So we need
like
a
I've seen a lot of people from the LGBTQ community or whatever. They're always like, I don't know, I mean,
That's amazing.
yeah, it is.
That's amazing.
I've seen, makeup artists.
Yeah,
and
technicians
all
mainly.
kinds
I mean,
of,
a lot of, yeah.
Even when it comes to actors, a film that I'm going to do that's coming up in Hindi has a transgender person being cast as a transgender person. So is one of the main actors. So we have a few actors, and she is one of the main actors of the film. So I see it happen. I mean, unless nobody is stopping you from doing it, we should just do whatever we feel like, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And it's amazing. I'm so happy to know that something like this is actually happening. But I also know this, Nithya, that it is not common. Which is why I asked the question repeatedly. And which is why I'm asking the question to the actors.
Having so many women itself on a set is not common.
Yeah.
That itself is just now
True.
starting. So, people, it just comes from eons, like generations and generations of it just being a workspace being just for men, to now slowly changing. Like
Men of certain ages.
Too.
I think it's extremely imperative to have it. I have been in the corporate world. I have been in workspaces where the inclusion rider is there in all employment contracts. When they advertise, we put it in.
Yeah.
And invariably, when you build it in the culture, then there is always an effort made to meet it. And I think it is an effort because it is true that whether it's the disabled, whether it is, I think from the Lalit Soni group, they have a pub which is completely run, which has DJs who are blind, who are from the LGBTQA community. I'm not like fully sure, but I know that there's a pub in Bombay somewhere.
There is.
So I think the diversity inclusion rider is extremely imperative in the film industry because we are a very unorganized group. Already the demand supplies never match each other. And this kind of a stipulation helps you to kind of bring direction. And once you start making a little effort, which we typically do not, जो भी मिलता है चलो adjust कर लेते हैं, this thing of we call that, we have that Indian thing, right? Like what is it? जुगाड़ मार के कर लेते हैं काम. It's not like that. I think filmmaking is a serious format of work, and there is a certain genuineness in the way we approach our workplace, which is extremely imperative. And it only takes, I have realized that being empathetic does not make it less economically viable. And there's always an excuse to do something which is more convenient. One way of looking at it is, we had one LGBTQIA person. and we're not doing a favor on anybody by doing that.
Yeah.
And so I think the inclusion riders kind of set the culture. It's very specifically, I remember when we got into doing Wonder Woman, Anjali and the line producer, everybody spoke about how we want a respectful workplace. And I think stating that upfront is very useful in an organization where there are multiple people coming with different energies. And I think it's only worked. So I think it's imperative, and we are way far behind, at least the Indian film industry, across the country, many film industries, way behind in making a genuine effort in ensuring inclusion, both in our stories and the way we work.
It will happen. I'm an eternal optimistic. It will happen.
It should happen though, yes.
Yeah. Anjali ma'am, Parvathy, you like to add to this?
See, an inclusion rider is a clause that can be inserted into a contract. It is something which, an employer can adopt, right? It is not the law of the land.
Exactly.
But here we have many laws of the land which are not even implemented. So when you are including people, can you ensure that they will get a professional workspace where they are respected and where if any issues crop up, they will be addressed? I think it is important to think about that as well. It is not just enough to bring people on a set. It is very important to ensure that they will get the treatment they deserve.
Yeah.
And that is actually, we are so far behind. I mean, we haven't even come to posh implementation in the way that we should be doing.
Yeah.
So, these are all wonderful steps which should happen.
Yeah.
But I really believe that first, if we follow the law of the land and then we go about each of these steps, and when we do it properly.
No, you're right. An inclusion rider needs to be supported by a POSH, a WCC, and so much more. Of course.
Just adding that whole thing about whenever this question comes up, is everything directed with the notion of, are we moving forward? Are we moving beyond a tokenistic approach? Just saying, that always has to be kind of like, for me, that's an access point always. It's like, wait, am I just saying that to make sure I've checked that box? Even that's an introspection we ought to have. So just adding that aspect, sometimes these words are so powerful, it needs to stay with us, like Anjali saying, there's so much we still have to do in terms of just putting these preventative measures. We need to prevent it first. We're talking punishment first. And that all came with discussions in the collective, is for us to also learn from them, from collective discussions, that wait, we're still talking punishment. Prevent to kar le pehle, prohibit to kar le pehle. And there are already stuff that we can put it, and there is resistance, mind you, to even implementing that. And then we have to now then dig deeper as to why there is resistance. And so we're peeling the onion there, and so inclusion rider kind of seems like a far off dream and a wonderful joyland to be in. But hopefully, I'm also an optimist like you.
But yes, we should work our way there. You're totally right about
Absolutely. Yes. And like I said, if we talk about this, I think 0.1% of my work as a journalist is done. So I'm really happy about that.
Thank you.
I also have to take the liberty to ask you, ma'am, is it true I heard somewhere that you were offered Maine Pyar Kiya?
Oh God.
Why didn't you do
The
it?
question comes again.
Why did you do it?
Well, it's actually a long story, but I'll give you the shorter version of it. It's just that, the reason I didn't do it at that point is because I had decided to get married. And so when Rajshri Productions came with the subject, and they wanted certain dates for it to be shot, and I'd already decided on the date of when we were going to get married, and that's one of the reasons why I really didn't do it.
Completely our loss. Completely our loss. Ma'am, last question. I also have to tell you this, and let me take this opportunity to tell you how big a fan I am of Bangalore Days and Ustad Hotel. Please tell me the film are not being remade.
I can make no such guarantee.
But ma'am, what lovely films. Do you still, people come up to you, talk to you about it? Is it like a constant in your life every single day?
No, I'm very fortunate. There's been a lot of love showered on the films I've made.
Yeah.
And every year when it comes to that time when, it's like the day
The
of
anniversary.
release, it's something very special that each of them gets celebrated.
Yeah.
So that's it's a blessing that I have. So, very, very touched by that.
Well, thank you so much, guys. This was a lovely conversation. I had a great time. I hope you all had too.
Yes.
I'm really looking forward to Wonder Woman. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.